Welcome to Dark and Scary Licks with Sean Daniel, where the only thing darker and scarier than the licks is the evil in my heart every time I have to deal with T-Mobile's customer service. Legend has it there's an ancient scale that not many people know about that lends itself to the darkest and scariest licks of all time. And you may know it, you may not know it. It sounds like this. It's the Locrian mode, Locrian scale. It's actually really easy, and there's some really cool stuff that you can come up with it. Alright? So we're going to do this in the people's key of G major, but we're going to do it super dark and super scary. I'm rocking the St. Vincent Ernie Ball Music Man today through a Walrus Audio Iron Horse because Iron Horses are super scary. And basically all it is playing notes in the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G, but starting on the F sharp. Okay, so we're going to talk about licks you can make with this, why it sounds different than just using notes in the G major scale starting on a G, right? Right here, F sharp, second fret of the low E string. The cool thing is, it's a very symmetrical shape. What I mean by that is 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5. F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and then 2, 4. Okay? So, those are the notes. There's some really cool things you can do here, but the intervals, the spaces between the notes, are what makes the licks and stuff that you make from this shape sound so dark. Okay? So, right off the bat, we have one note, 2 to 3. That's called a minor second. Super dark. In and of itself, you know, it just sounds like you're moving one fret because that's all you're doing. So it's kind of like a Hubie Halloween level of dark and scary, right? I guess technically it's a Halloween movie, but to be frightened by that, you'd have to just be super dumb, right? So what happens when we start combining these with the other intervals, you kind of get a stacking of interesting intervals you might not find in other spots on the guitar, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to just learn an arpeggio from this. And that's going to look like this. We're going to move it all over the neck, right? So I've got 2, 3, 5. Then I'm going to the 3rd fret on the A string, which is the darkest and scariest part of all of this. This is more like the Haunting of Hill House scary. This is called a tritone, a diminished quality to this, having a regular 5 be flattened. Okay, so if you don't know much about the intervals, you're not interested, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time as far as the naming of it. If you want to learn more about that stuff, I'd go over it in a class that you can check out in the description. But basically we have the first 4 notes of this arpeggio we're making from the entire scale shape. Right there. So 2, 3, 5, 3A. Then we're going to jump to the 2nd fret of the D string and end up on the 4th fret of the D string, which is the octave of where we started. Okay? Now this is actually a really fun thing that you can do to kind of like rip off quick licks, because you can do this hammer on right there. You just strike the string once and hammer on 2, 3, 5, and then have your middle finger go down a string. And then do another hammer on the D string, right? Okay, so this is going to be the kind of F sharp diminished 7th chord type run that we're doing here. Now, I think it's more common to really utilize this stuff a little higher up the neck. So we're going to find a different F sharp, the 9th fret on the A string. Everything else is just as we did before, right? If we wanted to go through that entire scale mode shape, now it looks like this. 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, 9, 11. So we do that same kind of lick, like that. There's that double hammer on, right? Your middle finger just goes straight down a string. You can end it there if you want. Or you can keep going into the minor 7 interval to the octave, right? So now when you combine them all, now we're starting to get really dark and scary, kind of like a snuff film on the deep web or something, right? But out of context, we're just kind of playing single notes, right? And I don't think anything can be super, super dark in and of itself. I think it always needs a little bit of context. So what we said before is we're actually in the key of G. None of these notes are outside of a key. This is starting on the 7th degree in the key of G. Okay? F sharp. In fact, if you know the G major scale, do the same thing. Just play F sharp. And then kind of continue on through the G major scale. But what we're going to do is we're going to play super happy chords in the key of G, and then use this kind of dark and scary lick to warp the sound of what we're hearing. So again, kind of, if you just take the major chords in a key, the 1, 4, and 5 chords, in G that would be G major, C major, and D major. All right? So if we just have like a D major, C major, G. That's almost like annoyingly happy, right? Oh, what was that? Okay, so I'm just adding, instead of that second bar of G staying on there, I'm taking those happy G major chords, but then going right to that F sharp note, right? The 7th scale degree in that key. Now you can see this note is actually used in the other chords, like D major, right? That's the major third of D. So you wouldn't think it would be that out of place, but when we play like that, D major, C major, G major, it almost sounds kind of off. Again, we're still in the key, but that's what's really cool about this mode. And then once we kind of make little lines starting off of that, you can really kind of put a bunch of different imprints of sound into something that might otherwise be a little bland, right? I think another interesting way to think about this is, when people are playing solo, when people are playing lead, I think the default response for a lot of guitar players, myself included, is to go to the minor pentatonic shape, okay? So in that key, it would be E minor, right there. And then you can do a bunch of licks that everybody kind of already knows. That type of deal. Again, I don't want to get super into minor pentatonic licks. Just Google that and you'll find millions of them from every person that's ever picked up a guitar, right? But if we just kind of do something in E minor, and because we've been playing in G major this whole time, even those notes in and of itself sound kind of happy, right? So we can run these all the way back. What I want to do is I want to get out of this shape, and I want to end up on the G on the A string, the 10th fret, okay? So again, I'm just kind of... And then once we get there, go down a half step. Wherever your root note is in the key, just go down a half step. And then the rails just come off, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a chord out of some of these same notes that we already did. The nice thing about this position, aside from its symmetry, is having that flat 5, that diminished interval. Right? My middle finger's on the 10th fret of the D string. I can form this weird, nasty chord around it, right? Which is super easy to conceptualize. If we start on the root note, F sharp, we add its tritone, it's flat 5 right there. So pointer finger, 9A, middle finger, 10D. Ring finger is going to grab the octave F sharp, which is 11G. And then my pinky is going to grab a B note, which again is still in the same key. So I really have this kind of staircase, this demented staircase that I can kind of add. Now you can leave it unresolved like that if it's Halloween. You're just trying to torture people, right? Or you can actually just go to the 1 chord. That was just right behind a G major 7 chord, okay? Just like that, right? So, I think there really is a lot of use for these kind of like weird sounding tritone diminished runs, the Locrian mode, inside of something that isn't just like super terrible, because it really is just kind of like an attention getting thing. Having just like a little trick that kind of brings attention to a certain part and then maybe gives it that resolution, that fitting kind of ending, right? So again, you can do this in absolutely any key. You just have to find the root note and then just go back a half step. So in the key of A major, we would just take the 7th note, which instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can actually just go back. G sharp, Locrian. So again, there's a lot of use for it. I don't see a lot of people really talking about it. I think people really kind of reserve this type of playing for like just like metal or like super dark genres. But again, I really think that there's room for it in any kind of music, even if it's just a momentary thing to kind of build tension and just kind of release it with that sweet, sweet G major sound. So if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.